The sun was high above the red skies of Varnes. The air was hot and dry. Dust floated through the crowded market streets. Voices from every direction filled the air. Merchants shouted their prices. Children ran between stalls. Creatures from 10 worlds walked side by side. Taro moved slowly between the booths. He wore a plain brown robe, worn at the edges. His face was calm. His eyes were sharp. He carried a small bag of dried fruit, enough for 2 days. He nodded politely to a vendor and moved on. Taro was not strong or tall. He did not look like a fighter. Most people barely noticed him, and he liked it that when he heard a loud voice shout behind him, "You thief!" The voice was deep and angry. It shook the air. People stopped talking. A circle opened in the crowd. Taro turned and saw a tall alien figure with red skin and silver armor. It was a gladiator named Breaker. He was known for winning arena matches with no mercy. His forearms were thick with muscle. He stood over an old human woman. She wore a faded scarf and held a piece of fruit in her hand. "I saw you take it," Breaker growled. "You humans think you can steal and hide. Pay or be punished." The old woman trembled. Her hands shook. Her lips moved, but no sound came. "I did not steal," she whispered at last. "I thought it was for the public table. Please, I am hungry." Breaker raised his fist. The crowd watched in silence. No one moved. No one helped. Then a voice spoke calmly. "She made a mistake." That is all. Breaker turned. Taro stood a few steps away. His face showed no fear. His arms were at his side. "Stay out of this, human," Breaker growled. "She broke the law." Taro took a step forward. "She took 1 fruit. You wear armor worth more than a village. Do you really need to strike her down?" Breaker narrowed his eyes. "You challenge me?" Taro shook his head. "No, I speak." "That is not the same." Breaker moved closer. He was twice as tall as Taro. The market was silent. Only the wind made a sound. "Now she is old and weak," Taro said, "and you are strong. If you hit her, people will fear you, but they will not respect you. Is that the kind of strength you want?" Breaker stared at Taro. His fists clenched. His muscles tightened. But Taro did not step back. Silence stretched. Then slowly Breaker turned. He reached into his belt and pulled out a small coin. He placed it on the vendor's table. "For the fruit," he said in a low voice. Then he walked away. The crowd slowly began to breathe again. Taro helped the old woman to her feet. She held his arm tightly. Her eyes were wet with tears. "You have saved me," she said softly. "You are kind." Taro smiled gently. "Next time, ask first," he said, "but I understand." Hunger is a powerful thing. People watched as Taro walked with the old woman through the market. Some nodded. Others whispered. They had seen something they did not expect. Not far from the crowd, 12 women stood apart. Each wore fine robes of different colors. Their eyes were sharp and thoughtful. They had not come together by chance. They were leaders' daughters of powerful houses of Varnes. Each one came from a different part of the planet. Some were warriors. Others were scholars. One was a builder of ships. One was a keeper of ancient knowledge. They had come to the city for trade talks and politics. But now their eyes followed only one man. "This human," said Lady Mira, the tallest among them. He faced the gladiator with nothing but words. "He did not shake or hide," said Lady Kira. Her voice cool and calm. "He used no weapon," said Lady Sola. "But he won." They looked at one another. They had seen many kinds of power, wealth, strength, fame. But this was new. This was different. "Find his name," said Mira. "I wish to speak with him." Later that evening, Taro sat near a small fire. The old woman had shared her meal with him. He thanked her and left her with enough coins for food and rest. He returned to his small home made of stone and clothes. Sat in silence thinking about the day. He did not feel proud. He only felt tired. But somewhere deep inside he knew something had changed. A knock came at the door. Taro opened it. A royal guard stood there, with a strange expression on his face. "You are Taro?" the guard asked. Taro nodded. "Lady Mira of House Norrin wishes your presence." Immediately Taro blinked. "I'm just a translator," he said. "She knows," said the guard. Taro stepped outside. Above him the stars of Varnes began to shine. Something new was beginning. The palace of House Norrin stood high above the city. Its towers were made of crystal and white stone. It looked like a mountain of light. Flags moved slowly in the soft night wind. Guards in silver stood at every gate. Most people only dreamed of seeing this place. Taro never thought he would stand in front of its door. She followed the guard through quiet halls. The walls were covered with soft lights and strange paintings. Every step made a gentle sound. Servants passed by without a word. Taro kept his eyes forward. He felt small in this world of power and beauty. At last they reached a wide room with tall windows. Moonlight filled the floor. A figure stood near the window. She wore a long blue robe. Her dark hair was tied with silver threads. She turned slowly. "I'm Lady Mira," she said. Taro gave a small bow. "I'm Taro," he said quietly. Lemire studied him for a moment. Her eyes were sharp but not cold. She walked closer. "I saw what you did today," she said. "At the market." Taro looked down. "It was nothing," he said. "It was not nothing," she said. "You stopped Breaker. No one does that. He has made strong men fall in the arena." Taro said nothing. "You are not a fighter," Mira continued. "And yet you stood without fear." Why? Taro looked at her now. His voice was soft but steady because no one else did, and she was alone. Mira nodded slowly. "Many people say those words," she said. "Few act on them." She offered him a seat. He sat carefully. "You are a translator?" she asked. "Yes. I speak 6 languages. I help with trade work and records. You do not live like one of power." "I do not need power," he said. Mira smiled. "For the first time, that is why you have it." Taro looked at her with surprise, stood, and walked to a shelf. She picked up a small glass orb and placed it in front of him. "This is a gift, a memory orb. It will record today, so it will not be lost." Taro touched it gently. The surface felt warm. "Why give me this?" he asked. "Because your action matters more than you know." Taro stood. "Thank you, Lady Mira, but I should go. This world is not mine." As he turned to leave, Mira spoke again. "Taro, you are wrong." He stopped. "This world is also yours. You just do not see it yet." Outside the palace, the city lights shimmered. Taro walked slowly through the quiet streets. His mind was full. He had only tried to help. Now people were looking at him like he was something more. The next day came with soft rain. Taro returned to his work at the trade office. He sat with scrolls and reports. He translated documents for the merchants. He kept his head down. But whispers followed him. "That is the one from the market," someone said. "Breaker left the arena today." No reason given. Lady Mira called him to the palace. Taro tried to ignore it. At midday, another message came. A servant stood at the door with a scroll. "Lady Vina of House Solari invites you to speak." Taro frowned. "I do not know her." "She knows you," the servant said. Followed the servant to a tall tower near the east wall. There he met Lady Vina. She had green eyes and skin like bronze. Her voice was smooth like water. "I do not trust many people," she said, "but I saw truth in your eyes." She asked him many questions. About Earth, about his people, about why he stood up for the old woman. "Because I had to," Taro said again. Vina smiled and nodded. Same happened the next day. Lady Kira of House Tureen sent a rider to invite him. Then Lady Sola came in person to his home. One by one, the 12 women who had stood at the market came to meet him. They came not to test him, but to understand him. They asked about his thoughts, about fairness, about strength and peace. Taro did not speak like a ruler. He spoke with care and calm. He asked questions back. He listened before giving answers. And he never once asked for anything low. A new idea began to grow in the minds of the 12 women. An idea that made no sense to the world they knew. Yet it felt clear. On evening, the 12 gathered in a private garden under the starlight. They sat in a circle around a small fire. "We are not friends," said Lady Mira. "We come from rival houses. Some of us were raised to hate each other," said Lady Kira. "But we all saw him," said Lady Sola, "and we all felt the same thing. He showed us a new kind of strength," said Vina. "He did not take power. He gave it." They sat in silence for a while. Then Lady Mira spoke again. "I will say it first. I do not want him as a servant or a prize. I want him as a partner." The others looked at her. "Not one wife," said Lady Kira. But 12, they looked at one another. The idea was wild, against tradition, against the law, but no one laughed. Each one had seen something in Taro that they could not ignore. "He would never accept power for himself," said Lady Sola. "But together with us he may change everything." That night they made a promise, a quiet one, nothing written. Nothing spoken outside their circle. They would not fight over him. They would choose him together, and they would let him choose to. In his small home, Taro sat near his window. He looked at the memory orb on his shelf. It now held the light of the market day. He did not know what the future would bring, but he could feel something was coming, something big. The morning was quiet in the upper part of the city. A soft wind moved through the silver trees near Taro's home. Birds from other worlds sang their strange but gentle songs. Taro sat by his table, reading an old book in peace. Then came a loud knock on the door. Taro opened it and found a tall man in royal guard armor. His face was serious. He handed Taro a scroll sealed with the mark of the Arena Council. You are called to appear in the arena 3 days from now, the guard said. Taro opened the scroll and read the words carefully. It was a challenge. The name at the bottom made his heart sink. Record same gladiator from the Marketh, same fighter feared by all. Taro looked up. This is not a game, he said. No, the guard replied. He has challenged your honor before the people. You must answer or be shamed. Taro nodded slowly. I understand. After the guard left, Taro sat in silence. He held the scroll in his hands for a long time. He did not shake, but his mind was full. Had faced Breaker once with words. Now the world wanted to see something else. Something louder. Words spread across the city, like fire and dry grass. In the markets and towers, everyone talked about the same thing. Taro must fight Breaker, that human who stopped the blow with no weapon will. He survived. The arena buzzed with excitement. Matches were planned. Seats were prepared. The city had not seen such interest in years. In a private chamber, Lady Mira met with the other 11 women. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed concern. They want a show, she said. They want blood. He will not fight, said Lady Vina. That is not his way. Breaker knows this, said Lady Kira. He wants to break Taro in front of the people. We cannot stop the challenge, said Lady Sola, but we can stand with him. The 12 agreed. They would not ask Taro to fight. They would not force him to hide. They would trust his choice. When they went to visit him, Taro welcomed them with kindness. He gave them tea and sat with them around a small fire. You all came to see me, he said. With a smile, Lady Mira spoke first. We heard about the challenge. I know, Taro said. You do not have to accept it, said Lady Sola. You can leave the city for a time. Taro looked at the fire. His voice was calm. If I leave now, what message will that send to the people who watched at the market? The women stayed silent. I do not want to fight Breaker, Taro continued, and I will not raise a weapon, but I will go to the arena. I will stand there and face him again. Like before, Lady Vina looked at him with wide eyes. He may strike you, then let him. Taro said, if that is the only way. He knows strength, but you may be hurt, said Lady Mira softly. Taro looked at her. Better to stand for what is right than hide from what is wrong. The day of the challenge arrived. The arena was filled with thousands. Every seat was taken. People of every race and caste had come. Some came for blood. Others came for hope. The sky was clear. The wind was warm. Flags waved across the high walls. In the center of the arena stood Breaker. He wore no armor today, only light clothing. His red skin shone in the sun. His arms were strong. His eyes were hard. The gate opened. On the other side, Taro walked out, wore the same plain robe. No sword, no shield. Just calm steps and clear ice. The crowd grew quiet, stopped a few steps away from Breaker, and stood still. The arena master raised his hand. This is not a fight of strength, he said, but a test of honor. The challenge has been made. The stage is set. Begin. Breaker stepped forward. You come without a weapon again, he said. Taro nodded. I have no need. For one, you think this is courage? Breaker asked. Taro did not move. I think this is peace. Breaker raised his fist. The crowd held its breath. Taro looked at him and spoke one more time. You can strike me. You can hurt me. But the people will see who you really are. Breaker stared at Taro for a long moment, then slowly he lowered his fist. The arena was silent. Breaker took a deep breath. His voice was low but clear. You have won again. And I do not know how. Then he turned and walked away. The silence broke. It became a wave of sound. Cheers from the highest seats, claps from every side. Even those who came for a fight stood and gave respect. Taro stood alone in the center. Then he turned and walked back the way he came. Outside the arena, the 12 women waited. When he stepped through the gate, they moved toward him. Without a word, Lady Mira was the first to speak. You did not fall. Taro smiled softly. I did not need to. Lady Sola looked at the crowd behind them. You changed something today. Again, Taro looked at her and then at the others. I did nothing alone. Lady Vina nodded. That is why they follow you. That night lights filled the sky. Not for war. Not for victory, But for peace seen at the center of it all was a human who stood without lifting a hand. The days after the arena event were full of talk. In every market and street, people spoke about the human who stood without fear. Some called Taro foolish. Others called him wise. But no one could ignore what he had done. Even the children in the city played games where one stood like Taro, and the others tried to shake him. The name Taro was now known in every corner of Varna's. The arena council stayed silent. The gladiator breaker did not return to fight, some said. He had left the city. Others said he had chosen to become a teacher of peace. No one knew for sure. But one thing was clear. Taro had done something no one expected. He had changed the story in the high towers of the noble houses. The 12 women who watched it all began to meet in secret. At first they met in pairs, then in small groups, then all 12 together. These women were not friends. They came from rival houses. Their families had fought in the past. Their goals were different, but now they shared something strong. Each one had seen Taro stand against Breaker. Each one had spoken to Taro after the event. Each one had felt something shift inside. Lady Mira was the first to speak openly. I cannot stop thinking about him, she said to the others. Lady Vina nodded. His voice is still in my mind. He speaks with care. Like every word matters. Lady Kira leaned forward. When I was a child, I was told that humans are weak. Now I see they are not weak. They are just different. Lady Sola smiled. He is not strong in body, but I would trust him in any battle. The others agreed. But then came the difficult parts. Each of them had feelings for Taro. Each of them had thought about asking for a bond, but tradition did not allow such a thing. No one man could join with 12 noble women. It had never been done. Lady Mira stood and looked at the others. I will not fight you for him, she said. That is not the kind of love I want. Lady Vina stood next. Then let us not fight at all. Let us choose a new way. Lady Kira raised an eyebrow. You mean all of us? Together. Lady Sola laughed softly. Yes. Why not? He would never choose power. But if we stand as one, he might choose love one by one. The others agreed. They would not let jealousy or pride break what they had found. Instead, they would go to Taro together and speak their truth. Next evening, as the stars rose, Taro was sitting outside his home. He was writing notes from an old scroll. The memory orb from Lady Mira sat beside him. It glowed softly. Lio heard footsteps. He looked up and saw 12 women standing before him. He stood quickly, surprised. My ladies, you honor me, he said with a bold. Mira stepped forward. Taro, we come not as rulers tonight. We come as women who have seen something rare. Taro looked at her with a kind smile. You speak with weight. Please sit. They sat around him in a wide circle. The fire between them gave a warm light. Lady Vina spoke first. You have touched each of us in a different way, not by power, not by rule, but by how you live, how you speak, how you care. Lady Kira added, we have watched you. We have listened. We see now that your strength is not in your hands. It is in your heart. Lady Sola looked into his eyes, and we do not want to lose what we found. Taro listened in silence. He could feel their words were true. He did not feel proud. He felt thankful. Lady Mira stood. We offer you something strange, something never done before. She looked around at the others, and then back at him. We offer you a bond with all 12 of us, not as a prize, not as a ruler, but as a partner, a master in respect, not in control. Taro looked at them with wide eyes. He stood slowly. This is not an easy path, he said. We know, said Lady Kira. Others may not understand. Taro said they will learn, said Lady Venataro looked at the fire for a long moment. Then he looked at each of them. You asked for something great, he said, paused, but I cannot say no. My heart has already chosen each of you, in small ways. In quiet thoughts. The 12 smiled. You accept? Asked Lady Mira. I accept, Taro said with peace in his voice. They stood together. No one clapped, no music played, but the stars above seemed brighter. The world did not change in that moment, but something deep beneath the surface began to move. They stayed together until the night was gone, and the first light of morning touched the sky. From that day forward, people began to see them as one, Taro and the 12, a strange bond, a quiet revolution. Some laughed, some whispered, some watched with sharp eyes, but others began to believe if 12 noble houses could come together, If a human could rise without war, then maybe there was hope for something new. The city of Varnas was changing. People now spoke Taro's name with respect. In the schools, teachers used his story as an example of calm strength. Traders told his story during long journeys. Even the warriors in training camps talked about the man who stood without a weapon, but not everyone was pleased. Far above the city in the tallest tower sat the High Council of Varnas. These were the rulers of law and tradition. They were old and powerful. Their robes were black and gold. Their eyes were sharp like ice. They had watched everything. The market event, the arena moment, the 12 noble women walking beside a human. Mano, they called the secret meeting. The leader of the council, a woman named Elmaris, stood in the center of the round chamber. We must speak of the human called Taro. She said. A low murmur filled the room. One council member said, "He has not broken any laws." Another replied, "But the laws are not made for this." A human joined with 12 noble bloodlines. That has never happened. Elmaris raised her hand. The room became quiet again. He is not dangerous in the old way. She said. He does not raise an army. He does not claim land. But people follow him, without fear, without payment. That is a different kind of danger. The others nodded. If we let this continue, it will spread. Other humans will ask for more respect. The lower caste will speak louder. Peace may come, but it will break our order. They agreed to send him a message that evening. A royal guard knocked on Taro's door. He stood tall and serious. "The High Council calls for you." He said. Taro was not surprised. He thanked the guard and followed him through the quiet streets at the tower gates. The guards searched him. He had no weapon, only a scroll and a fruit in his pocket. They let him pass. Council sat in a half circle above him. Their faces showed no emotion. Taro stood alone in the middle of the chamber. Mary spoke. "You have gained attention. We watched you speak at the market. We watched you in the arena. Now you walk with 12 noble daughters. You are not a citizen of rank, yet you carry influence." Why? Taro looked up. His voice was calm. "I did not ask for attention. I only did what felt right." "You could have stayed quiet," said another council member. "You could have accepted silence." "I could have," said Taro, "but I chose to speak when others would not. Not for power, for truth." Elmaris leaned forward. "Then hear our truth. The world runs on balance. Your union with 12 noble houses shakes that balance. It breaks tradition. It weakens the foundation of our law." Taro did not argue. He listened with courage. Elmaris continued. "You may walk away freely. If you step down from this union, we will give you land, a title, even a small seat in the trade council. That is our offer." Taro looked around the chamber. "I thank you for your offer, but I cannot accept." Silence filled the room. Elmaris narrowed her eyes. "Why not?" "Because I did not join with the 12 for title or reward. I joined them because they saw me as I am, not as a tool, not as a name, but as a person. I cannot walk away from that." A younger council member leaned forward. "Do you wish to become ruler?" Then Taro shook his head. "No, I wish for no throne. I only wish for peace. But peace without truth is not real peace." Elmaris looked at the others. She saw their worry. "You leave us no choice." She said. Taro bowed slightly. "You always have a choice, just as I did." Then he turned and walked out of the chamber. Outside, the 12 women waited for him. They had stood under the tower wall in silence when they saw him. They walked to his side. "Did they offer threats?" asked Lady Mira. "No," said Taro. "They offered rewards." "Did you accept?" asked Lady Vina. "No." Taro said. "Because truth cannot be bought." The 12 nodded. They were proud of his choice, but they also knew the council would not stop with words. In the following days, strange things began to happen. Taro's name was removed from market signs. Speakers were sent to schools to teach old laws. Again, some guards were told not to salute him in public. It was quiet pressure, hidden control. But the people of Varnas noticed. An old vendor placed a sign in his shop. "This man saved an elder. He is welcome here." A teacher spoke during class. "Truth has no rank." Taro taught us that even a few council workers began to question the silence. The 12 women began using their power to support the people directly. Lady Kira opened a learning hall for all species. Lady Sola started a water sharing system for poor villages. Lady Mira sent letters to other noble houses asking for unity beyond rank. Taro did not stop them. He only walked with them and listened. He guided. He reminded them of kindness. Often said, The world will not change because I speak. It will change because we all do one evening. As the sun set behind the hills, a child came running to Tara with a note. It was written by hand. Not with seal or symbol. Note said, some of us on the council hear you. We are not all blind. Keep walking. Tara folded the note and smiled. It did not know who had sent it, but it was enough a small light in a room once full of shadows. The city of Varnus did not change in one night, but slowly and quietly change had started. People began to walk with straighter backs. These spoke a little louder. When asking for fairness, even the children played different games. No, some played as peacekeepers instead of soldiers, some played as helpers instead of kings, and in almost every story told at the end of the day, one name always came up. Drawing a corner of the city, an old human man sat on a wooden bench, watched a young alien and a human child walk hand in hand, smiled and whispered, "This is new, and it is good." Tara and the 12 women had not asked for power, but power had come in a new form. It came from trust, from action, from small choices made every daily. Mira opened a learning circle. In her part of the city, children from every house and every species came there. They sat together on soft cushions. They listened to stories of kindness, patience, and shared dreams. Starro visited often. He never stood at the front, sat among the children, and asked questions like Themon Day, a small child asked him, "Master Taro, are you a leader?" Taro smiled and shook his head. "I am a listener first, and a friend second." The children liked that answer. Lady Sola brought her skills to the farming land. She used her tools and knowledge to build clean water. Linus Snow. The people could grow food even during dry months. Taro helped dig the first well with his own hands. Workers tried to stop him. He said, "You do not need to do this. You are important now." Taro only said, "Everyone has hands. I choose to use mine." Lady Vina opened healing stations in far towns. Many humans had never entered such places before. No, they were welcome without question. Vina trained new healers and shared every lesson freely. Taro sat with the sick and told them soft stories to help them rest. Never acted like a hero, only acted like a person who cared. The 12 women worked as one. They did not fight for attention. They moved like stars in the same sky, one with her own path, but all connected through the same center. Tara people began calling him master, not with fear because of rank, but with a voice full of respect. They said it like a song, soft and proud. Master Taro council still watched from the tall tower. They saw the people speaking freely. They saw old rules begin to bend. Some of them felt worried, but others began to feel something new. Hopeen council member named Yali came to visit Taro in secret. She wore a plain robe and came without Guardstar met her in the garden near the learning circle. They sat under a tree with red leaves. "I watched you from far for many days." Yali said, "I did not believe what I heard, but now I see it with my own eyes. I'm no magician." Taro said, "I only try to do what feels right." Yali nodded. "You changed more than the people. You changed us." She took out a small book from her pocket. It was full of names and new ideas. "Some of us are writing new paths. We hope you will help." Taro looked at the book, did not take it, but he said, "I will always help those who wish to walk with care." Yali stood and bowed slightly. "You are not like anyone I have met, and I am thankful for that." Then she left quietly. Later that night, the 12 women sat together in their shared home. It was not a place. It was a simple wide house made of wood and stone, full of open windows and warm lights. They all gathered around a table. Taro placed a fruit basket in the middle. "Always like to bring something from the outside." Lady Mira spoke first. "A council member came today. They want his help." Lady Kira smiled. "They began to see what we saw." Lady Sola looked around. "Are we ready for what comes next?" Taro listened. Then he spoke. "We must stay as we are. Honest, patient, open." He looked at each one of them with soft eyes. "If we become proud, we lose what we built." Lady Vina reached across the table and held his hand. "We are proud of you, but not in the way of kings and queens." Taro nodded. "Let the people see that love can guide as much as law." Outside the window, the stars were bright. The city lights of Varnus shimmered in the night. And somewhere in the market, an artist carved a small statuette. Showed a man standing with empty hands and a gentle smile. Behind him stood 12 women with open arms, and below it he carved for simple words stood for us all. The sun rose gently over the hills of Varnus. The skies were clear, painted in gold and soft blue. Birds flew low over the grass fields. The The rivers moved with a quiet rhythm, as if the planet itself was at peace. Taro stood at the edge of a small lake, watching his reflection in the water. His robe fluttered in the breeze. Behind him, soft footsteps came closer. It was Lady Mira. She smiled and said, "You still wake up before everyone else." Taro nodded. The silence of morning speaks the truth. It reminds me how far we have come. She sat beside him, dipping her hand into the cool water, and how far the people still have to go. But they are ready. Across Varnes, the changes continued. Villages once forgotten were now alive with schools and clean water. Cities that had been filled with fear now held festivals, where humans and other beings danced side by side. Walls were taken down. New roads were built. The stars looked brighter now because hope had returned. Lady Noma led a group of thinkers who created a new learning center. It was open to all, without cost. They call it the Circle of Minds. People came from far galaxies to share their wisdom and listen to others. Lady Kira helped build a transport network that connected the north and south. No more did travelers need to walk for days in the heat or snow. Trains moved across the land smoothly, bringing people together. Lady Sola continued her healing work. She trained a new group of healers every season. Each one promised to serve all people, not just the high-born. Many of them were human, something that had never happened before. But it was not just the 12 women who led these efforts. Many others joined in. Farmers taught their neighbors how to grow better food. Builders made homes stronger. Children created songs about unity and kindness. They sang them in streets and schools. People started using a new saying across Varnes. One voice can open hearts. One heart can change the world. At the heart of this peaceful movement stood Taro, still calm, still humble. He never asked for power. He never built a palace. He lived in the same small home near the hills. People often came to see him, not for orders, but for advice. A young captain once asked him, "How do I lead my team with fairness?" Taro answered, "Listen more than you speak. Stand with them, not above them." An old scholar asked, "What if people forget your story in time?" Taro smiled. "They don't need to remember me. They only need to remember the lesson." One day, the High Council called for a celebration. It had been 5 years since the great change began. They wished to honor Taro and the 12 women. Banners were raised. Lights decorated the streets. People from across the planet traveled to the capital city. It was the largest gathering Varnes had ever seen. Taro did not want to stand on a high stage. He asked for a simple seat among the people. But the council insisted he speak once to all. As he stood before the crowd, the wind brushed his face. His 12 companions stood behind him, strong and proud. Taro raised his hand, and the crowd became silent. "I am no hero," he began. "I am only a man who chose to do what felt right. I did not fight with fists. I did not lead with fear. I only gave respect and asked others to do the same." He looked across the sea of faces. "You are the ones who brought the change. You are the ones who continue it. Today is not my celebration. It is yours." The people of Varnes chose peace, and that choice made this world beautiful again. The crowd cheered, not with wild noise, but with deep joy. Some clapped, others wept. Many simply stood quietly, their hearts full. Later that night, Taro and his 12 wives sat around a fire near their home. The stars above blinked gently. Lady Vina said, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not helped that old woman in the market that day?" Taro nodded slowly. "Yes, I wonder about it often." Lady Mira added, "You could have walked away. No one would have noticed." Taro looked into the fire. "But I would have noticed, and that would have changed everything." They all sat in silence for a moment. Then Lady Lyra said that one act of kindness became a spark. "And now the world is brighter." Taro smiled, because we all carried that light together. Years passed. Taro grew older. His hair turned white. His steps slowed. But his heart stayed strong. One morning, a group of children came to visit him. They had learned about his story in school. They asked him many questions. He answered them all with care. Before they left, one small girl said, Master Taro. When you are gone, who will lead us? Taro placed a hand gently on her head. Look in the mirror. The one who leads you is already there. She smiled brightly and ran to tell her friends. Taro watched them go and whispered to himself, the world is safe in their hands. When he finally left the world, the news spread slowly and gently like the setting sun. There was no great sadness, only quiet peace. People planted trees in his name. They built schools, gardens, and libraries, not statues. Living things that grew and helped others. His story became part of every home, told not with pride, but with warmth. He had not won a war. He had not claimed a crown, but he had changed a world. And for that, he was remembered not just as a leader, but as a light that never faded.